Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth-raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaved Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. So we'll get started for the class today. So today's verse which I've been asked to speak is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 9th chapter, 20th verse. So let me recite this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yo avidya anupahato api dasardha vrittaya nidram uvaha jathari kritaloka yatra antarjale ahi kashipu sparsha anukulam bhimor bimalini janasya sukham vivarnvan. So this is the verse in Sanskrit. So we will go through the word meanings, translation, and then the purport. So the word meanings: ya, one, avidya, influenced by nescience; anupahata, without being affected; api, in spite of; dasha ardha, 5; vrittaya, interaction; nidram, sleep; uvaha, accepted; jadhari, within the abdomen; krita, doing so; lokayatra, maintenance of the different entities; anta jale, within the water or devastation; ahi kashipu, on the snake bed; sparsha anukulam, happy for the touch; bhima urmi, violent waves; malini, chain of; janashya, of the intelligent person; sukham, happiness; vivarnvan, showing. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My Lord, you accept the pleasure of sleeping in the water of devastation where there are violent waves, and you enjoy pleasure on the bed of snakes, showing the happiness of your sleep to intelligent persons. At that time, all the universal planets are stationed within your abdomen. I'll repeat the translation again. My Lord, you accept the pleasure of sleeping in the water of devastation where there are violent waves, and you enjoy pleasure on the bed of snakes, showing the happiness of your sleep to intelligent persons. At that time, all the universal planets are stationed within your abdomen. So we'll go through the purport and then we will discuss about this verse. So purport: persons who cannot think of anything beyond the limit of their own power are like frogs in a well who cannot imagine the length and breadth of the great Pacific Ocean. Such people take it as legendary when they hear that the Supreme Lord is lying on his bed within the great ocean of the universe. They are surprised that one can lie down within water and sleep very happily. But a little intelligence can mitigate this foolish astonishment. There are many living entities within the bed of the ocean who also enjoy the material bodily activities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. If such insignificant living entities can enjoy life within the water, why can't the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, sleep on the cool body of a serpent and enjoy in the turmoil of violent ocean waves? The distinction of the Lord is that his activities are all transcendental and he is able to do anything and everything without being deterred by limitations of time and space. He can enjoy his transcendental happiness regardless of material considerations. So let me start the discussion. Before that, let me offer the prayers, Mangalaswaran prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Apta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome everyone on this Bhagavatam class on Canto 3, Chapter 9, verse 20. So Lord Brahma is, before Lord Brahma took up the task of creation, he found the Lord happily sleeping on the serpent bed in the waves of the water of devastation. So Brahma is offering respects to the form he sees in front of him. So Brahma's prayers are not ordinary, but completely on the transcendental platform, because Brahma is an authority on spiritual matters. Yesterday, Tirth Chaitanya Prabhu was explaining the exalted nature of Lord Brahma, right? So Brahma is one of the 12 Mahajans, right? He's an authority on spiritual matters. So each of the statements or the words which Brahma is using to glorify the Lord has got a lot of meaning and learning for the conditioned souls. So these descriptions of the Lord, like the way he's describing in this verse, has got a lot of meaning, and it also provides a lot of learning for the conditioned souls. So this verse, as we understand, this verse is part of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam deals with the topic of Sarga. Sarga is the creation of the totality of matter with elements manifesting from Prakriti by the glance of Vishnu. So there are 33 chapters in third canto. And the first 4 chapters is a conversation between Vidur and Uddhava. The next 8 chapters deal with Sarga and Visarga. And the next 7 chapters describes the pastimes of Varaha. And then 1 chapter describes the Visarga in summary, and the 4 chapters describe Kapila Dev. And the next 9 chapters describe his teachings. This completes the 3rd canto. This is the breakup of the 33 chapters, right? So, so here, this chapter is dealing with Sarga and Visarga, right? Sarga is primary creation and Visarga is secondary creation done by Brahma, Lord Brahma. So now let's understand what Lord Brahma is saying in this verse. There are some key points in this verse. So, and I'll walk through some key points from this verse and what we can learn from them. So first, if you look at this verse, there are some important words which are used here in this verse. The first is avidya, influenced by nescience, anupahata, without being affected, and dasha ardha, 5, right? And vrittaya, interactions. So in Prabhupada's translation, Prabhupada is not explicitly translated the dasha ardha and avidya in the translation, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he writes in the translation of this verse that the meaning of this dasa ardha, 5 interactions and influenced by nescience, avidya, is that he is saying that he is offering respect to the Lord who is uninfluenced by ignorance with its 5 functions. With its 5 functions. So dasa ardha, vrittaya, avidya, anupahata, these are very important words here. And we have to understand the meaning of that because that differentiates, that creates the differentiation between the ordinary jiva and the Supreme Lord, right? So, so it is described that when Brahma is offering respect to the form he sees in front of him, he is saying that the Lord sleeps without being overcome by the ignorance with its 5 functions, which causes sleep. Right? Now, what are these 5 functions of ignorance? Right? What is ignorance with its 5 functions? That is explained in 3rd canto, 20th chapter, 18th verse. So the 3rd canto, 20th chapter, 18th verse, it is explained that Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls, and they are 5 in number. And that's why dasa ardha, dash means 10 and ardha means half. So 5. What are these 5 coverings of ignorance? It is described that the 5 coverings of ignorance is, number 1 is tamishra. Number 1 is tamishra. Number 2 is andha tamishra. Number 3 is tamas. Number 4 is moha. And number 5 is mahamoha. These are the 5 coverings of ignorance. Now, what is the meaning of each of them? We will go through this in detail. It is explained. So, andha tamishram refers to the sense of death. Tamishram refers to anger upon frustration. Mahamoham refers to the ownership of enjoyable objects. And moham represents the illusory conception. And tama refers to the darkness in self-knowledge. Right? So all the conditioned souls who have come to this material world to enjoy sense gratification are covered by these 5 different conditions. And what Brahma is saying is that Krishna, the form of the Lord, he is glorifying the Lord, that the Lord is beyond, is not affected by these 5 different conditions of ignorance. So the first condition is a covering of tamishra or anger. So all of us have free will, right? And by the misuse of that free will, right, we think that I want to become an enjoyer independent of the Supreme Lord. And this forgetfulness of his constitutional position is due to anger or envy. So that is referring to tamishra. It is mentioned in the purport in 3:20:18 that the living entity, being an eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, can never be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. And when he forgets this and tries to be one with him, his condition is called tamishra. So that is tamishra. right? Now, then there is Andhatamishra. Andhatamishra involves considering death to be the ultimate goal, ultimate end. So the atheistic people, they generally think that this body, they identify this body with the self, right? And that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus, they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. Their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously, right? And so you can commit any kind of sinful activities to enjoy with the body. So this is Andhatamishra. The Andhatamishra ignorance is due to tamas. Tamas means that you do not know anything about the spirit soul. That is the meaning of tamas. And this material world is also called as tamas. It's a dark world, because if you see 99% of the people are ignorant. They don't understand that they are not this body, they are spirit soul. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body and he has no information of the spirit soul. So guided by this misconception, one always thinks this is my body and anything in relationship with this body is mine, right? So these people, actually the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sense gratification. And as soon as they get the opportunity for sense gratification, they become attached to home, family, children, wealth, opulence, etc. So as these attachments increase, moha, or the illusion of the bodily concept of life, also increases. And then the person has this idea that I am this body and everything belongs to this body is mine, right? And he identifies himself with his family, with society, with nationality, etc., right? And they fight with one another. So that is moha. Then there is mahamoha. Mahamoha means to be mad after material enjoyment. So especially in this age of Kali Yuga, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment, right? So these are the five coverings of ignorance. These are the five coverings of ignorance. We should remember Andhatamishram, Tamishram, Mahamoham, Moham, and Tama. In brief, Andhatamishram means the sense of death. Tamishram means anger upon frustration. Mahamoham means ownership of enjoyable objects. Moham means illusory conception. And Tama means darkness in self-knowledge. Darkness, you do not even understand that you are not this body, you are a spirit soul, right? So if you remember in the end, towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Nast moha smritir labdha tvat prasadan maya chita stitoshmi gata sandeha karishe vachanam tava, right? So he says, Nasta moha. Nasta moha. My moha is nasta, is destroyed. My illusion is destroyed. And what is that illusion? What is that illusion? The illusion is to identify oneself with this body and anything which is pertaining to this body, right? So when we are beyond that illusory concept of life and we understand that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and my duty is to engage in the service of the Lord, then I am free from illusion, right? And then I will never have fear, right? I will never have fear, because the fear comes because of the bodily concept of life, right? Why are we all fearful all the time, right? Because of coverings of ignorance, right? Because we are identifying with ourselves with the body. We know that the spirit soul is eternal. The spirit soul is eternal. The spirit soul is beyond death. Spirit soul has no birth or death. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, right? There is no birth or death for the spirit soul. But still we are fearful. Why are we fearful? Because of moham, because of tamas, right? Now the point is we know this theoretically, but we don't know it. We don't have realization of this, right? So what is the difference between theory and realization? The difference is that when you are realized, you are beyond any doubt, right? If you remember in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses this word asamsayam, right? Samshaya, shansha means doubt, and asamsayam means beyond doubt. For example, daily we change our dress, right? We change our dress every day, right? But when I change my dress, do I become perturbed or disturbed that, oh, what will happen if I change my shirt or pant? No, right? Because I know for sure I'm completely established in the fact that nothing is going to happen, right? But when we talk about change of body, when we talk about death, we immediately become very, very perturbed, very disturbed, right? So that means we don't have realization. So realization, Gyan, there is Gyan and there is Vigyan. Vigyan does not come just by reading books, right? Vigyan comes by associating with the pure devotees, rendering service to the pure devotees. And when the pure devotees, when they speak, and when you hear, and when you render service to them, then by their causeless mercy, we get Vigyan, realizations. So realizations come by rendering service. Realization will not come simply by theoretical study, right? Studying is important to get knowledge, right? To get real knowledge. But that study is not going to help us alone. We have to engage practically in service. Like Prabhupada practically was engaging in service. So when you practically engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, then there will be realization that, oh, yes, I am not this body, I am a spirit soul. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavitana bhuya ajo nityam, right? Sashvatam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire, right? Then we will understand that we are not this body, we are spirit soul, which is a covering of ignorance, tamas, moha, right? All these are coverings of ignorance, illusory conception, darkness of self-knowledge. So when you practically go out in the field, right, and do practical service, then these 5 coverings of ignorance will be removed. So here Brahma is saying that, my dear Lord, you are not influenced, you are not affected by nescience, right? What type of nescience? Which has 5 functions, which is 5 kind of coverings, right? Dasa ardha, 5, right? You are not affected by that, right? So that is the difference between the Supreme Lord and the ordinary jiva, right? The infinitesimal soul. And so Vibhu and Anu, right? So the Supreme Lord is beyond these 5 coverings of ignorance, right? So that is the glorification which Brahma is doing in this verse. So that's one part. Now, the other part, Prabhupada writes that Patanjali, who is considered to be an acharya, a great sage in the yoga system, he also accepts that there are 5 kinds of nescience, right? Avidya is being referred here. There are 5 kinds of nescience. And according to the commentary from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that these 5 afflictions of the mind, these are avidya. Number 1 is avidya. Number 2 is asmita. Number 3 is rag. Number 4 is dvesh. Number 5 is abhinivesh, right? And Patanjali Yoga Sutras also mention these 5 afflictions of the mind. So first is avidya. Avidya means that you are ignorant about the higher self. Asmita means egoism, false ego. Ahankar, right? Ahankar, false ego, right? And then third is rag. Rag is attachment. Attachment referring to the desire to enjoy material objects, relationships, status, and power. And then the fourth is dvesh, right? Dvesh. Dvesh is aversion. Aversion to unpleasant things, people, and experiences. And the 5th one is abhinivesh. Abhinivesh means fear, or more specifically, fear of death, right? Fear of death. So abhinivesh is a very important one. All of us are very, very fearful in this material world, right? Because we are always covered by the 5 kinds of ignorance, right? So that is the point being mentioned here by Lord Brahma, that, my dear Lord, you are beyond the 5 kinds of ignorance, right? You are unaffected by that, right? And then he's saying that you accept the pleasure of sleeping in the water of devastation. So there is creation, there is devastation. This is the natural cycle, right? There is annihilation and then there is creation. So this devastation, just to explain this devastation, the devastating water which Brahma was seeing, it was so fearful that Brahma was perturbed at its appearance and became very anxious about how to situate the different planetary systems, because he was given the duty to situate the different planetary systems. The Sarga has already been done. The primary creation has already been done by the Lord. Don't think that Brahma is the creator, right? All the elements have been created by the Supreme Lord himself, right? What Brahma has to do is to situate the different planetary systems in outer space to accommodate the different kinds of living entities, right? Different kinds of living entities. So there are human beings, there are those which are lower than the human beings, and then there are superhuman beings, the demigods. So all the planets in the universe are situated according to the different grades of living entities under the influence of the three modes of material nature, right? And when these three modes of material nature are mixed, when they are mixed with one another, they become 9, right? 3 into 3, 9. And when the 9 are mixed, they become 81. And when the 81 are also become mixed, thus we ultimately, right? We do not know how the delusion increases and increases. So Lord Brahma, just imagine the task which Lord Brahma has been given, such a difficult task. So Lord Brahma had to accommodate different places and situations for the bodies required, different kinds of bodies required for the conditioned souls. And this task can be done only by Brahma. No one in the universe can even understand how difficult it was. We cannot even comprehend. It is not possible for us to comprehend how difficult this task is. We cannot comprehend this. But by the grace of the Lord, Brahma was able to execute this tremendous work so perfectly that everyone is amazed to see the works, the workmanship of the Vidhata, the regulator, right? So the most difficult task is possible, right, by the causeless mercy of the Lord, right? And Brahma is a qualified personality, is an exalted personality to actually carry out that task. That's why the words which Brahma is speaking, Brahma is the most intelligent living entity in this material universe, right? So what the words which he is speaking are highly qualified, highly transcendental, right? Most transcendental and very, very apt in describing the Supreme Lord. So each word which he uses has got a lot of meaning. So this was the scene he's describing, that the dear Lord is lying in the water of devastation of the universe, right? There is water everywhere, the universal water, right? Anta Jala, right? And Lord Krishna, or Lord in the form of Lord Vishnu, right? Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he is lying there in the water of devastation, right? And happily, he is lying happily, he is accepting the pleasure of sleeping in the water of devastation. Right? Now, the other point to understand here is the word which is used is nidram. Nidram means sleeping. Right? So is this sleeping something like our sleeping? No. So Brahma, the Lord, is sleeping without being overcome by the ignorance with its 5 functions. When we sleep, what happens? What happens? We sleep, we are either dreaming or we are in the sushupti state, right? There are 3 states. Wakefulness, jagrati, sushupti, and dreaming, right? Swapna state, right? So when we sleep, we completely forget ourselves, right? We are completely in ignorance, completely covered by ignorance, right? But when the Lord sleeps, the difference between our sleep and Lord's sleep is that Lord sleeps without being overcome by the ignorance with its 5 functions. And that's why his sleep is referred to as Yoga Nidra. His sleep is referred to as Yoga Nidra. And our sleep is, what is the nature of our sleep? Our sleep is completely in ignorance. It is complete moha, completely we are covered by the modes of ignorance, right? So his sleep is completely on the transcendental platform. His sleep is composed of his Swarup Shakti. His sleep is composed of his Swarup Shakti, right? So this point we have to understand, right? Shri Krishna's Swarup Shakti is his primary Shakti, is his primary energy. And all the other energies have their origin in the Swarup Shakti or the Chit Shakti. And the Swarup Shakti is constituted of Sandhini, eternal existence, Samvit, complete spiritual knowledge, and Haladani, which gives pleasure, Ananda, right? So this sleeping, which we are seeing, which Brahma is describing here, where the Lord is comfortably sleeping with great pleasure in the water of devastation on the bed of snakes, is not ordinary sleep. This is enacted by the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, right? This is enacted by the Swarup Shakti of the Lord. This is enacted by the Chit Shakti of the Lord, right? So this, we have to understand this point, very important point. The word we see that in Bhagavatam, the word Yoga Nidram is used in reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord, we have to understand that the Lord is always situated in transcendence. He is Satchidanand, eternally in bliss, and thus he is not disturbed by sleep like ordinary human beings, right? Srila Madhvacharya, he states that the Lord is Turya Sthita. The Lord is Turya Sthita, right? So there are three states of the intelligence. One is called as Jagaran. I just explained. Jagaran means wakefulness. Nidra means sleep, and Sushupta means deep sleep. And what Srila Madhvacharya is explaining, that the Supreme Lord is Turya Sthita. He is beyond all these three states. He is beyond the state of wakefulness, beyond sleep, beyond deep sleep. He is situated Turya. Turya means fourth dimension. Turya means fourth dimension. Turya also means transcendental. He is completely transcendental. He is beyond the state of wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep, which ordinary living entities like us go through. Therefore, we have to understand this point. Prabhupada is explaining in context of the Mayavadis, right? We have to understand that sleeping does exist. Sleeping does exist in the internal potency of the Lord. It does exist. And the pure devotees like Lord Brahma are explaining that in these verses, that sleeping does exist. So it is clearly stated here that the Lord slept very happily within the violent waves of the water, right? So Brahma is teaching us. Prabhupada writes in the next verse, in the purport to the next verse, right? He is trying to defeat the Mayavadis, because the Mayavadis believe that how can the Lord sleep, right? Because sleeping is ignorance. Sleeping is a function of matter, right? How can the spirit sleep, right? So the Mayavadi cannot think beyond this material experience, and thus they deny the Lord's ability to sleep within the water. See this nonsense thing, right? Which the Mayavadis believe. They deny the Lord's ability to sleep within the water. Because why they deny? Because Prabhupada says that their mistake is that they compare the Lord to themselves, right? So the whole philosophy of the Mayavadi school is basically material, right? And by that material process, one can never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is. So Prabhupada writes in the next verse, in the 3:9:21 verse, that Brahma is teaching us the beginning of Archana process. What is Archana process? From morning, we wake up, right, at 4 o'clock to till 10 o'clock, right? Early in the morning, we perform Mangala Arati. The devotee, we have to rise early from the bed, pray to the Lord, and there are regulatory principles for offering Mangala Arati early in the morning, right? So this, what Brahma is trying to say, what Prabhupada is saying is the importance of Archana, right? we have to understand, we have to understand, or the materialistic people or the Mayavadis, they cannot understand that the Lord also sleeps by his own sweet will. Right? So this impersonal conception of the Supreme is very, very dangerous. It is very detrimental to the path of devotional service. Right? And that's why it's very important that we understand the Supreme Lord as described by his pure devotees. Don't apply our own brain, our tiny brain. Right? We cannot understand the Supreme Lord. It's not possible by our own effort. But when we hear the descriptions of the Supreme Lord by his pure devotees like Lord Brahma, like the other 12 Mahajans, whose descriptions are given in Srimad Bhagavatam, and when we make an effort to understand that again and again, hearing again and again, right? Again and again hear from the pure devotees, then we will be able to understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it's not possible. By one's own effort, right? The Gyanis, they take a lot of trouble, right, to understand the Supreme Lord by their own effort, right? They go to the Himalayas, they sit in the snow, and they take a lot of trouble, right? But their conception is that they will be able to understand the Supreme Lord by their own effort. No, not possible. Maximum they can go is up to the point of Brahman realization, right? And then the Brahman realization, since there is no variegatedness in the Brahman realization, then what happens? Oh, then there is a disinterest in spiritual life. Come back to this material world, open hospitals, open so many different things, right? Because when there is no variegatedness, the living entity wants varieties, right? If every day we are offered khichdi prasadam, right? Every day we are said that just take khichdi prasadam. Will we like it? No. We want varieties, variegatedness. As Prabhupada used to say, variety is the mother of invention. Why there are so many varieties, right? Because the living entity's nature, the living entity's original nature is to enjoy variegatedness. And where is it coming from? It is coming from the Supreme Lord, right? So the point is, this Mayavadi concept, right, that the Lord cannot sleep, right, that is the material phenomena, is completely bogus, completely nonsense, right? The Lord's sleep is enacted by his Swarup Shakti, by his internal potency, by his spiritual potency, right? He is not sleeping in the mode of ignorance like we sleep, right? He is Turyasthita. He is beyond the state of wakefulness, sleep, dreaming, and deep sleep. He is not affected by any of those, right? He is completely cognizant. He is completely cognizant of his position. He is beyond the five coverings of ignorance we talked about, right? Moha, Maha, Moha, Tamas, Andha, Tamishram, Tamas, right? Andha, Tamishram, all of that, right? He's beyond that. So that is one point I wanted to describe here, right? Now, the other point which we need to understand is, we talked about Archana, right? Now, the other point we need to understand here is that he's lying in the bed of snakes, right? He's lying on the bed of snakes, right? So the point is, Ananta Shesh, he's lying on the bed created by Ananta Shesh. The Ananta Shesh is the devotee incarnation of Godhead. And he knows nothing but service to Lord Krishna, right? So whatever whatever the business of the Ananta Shesh is to supply all the bodily comforts to Lord Vishnu, right? So the Shesha or Ananta, he serves Vishnu as his mattress. He protects him from all atmospheric disturbances by making his head like a canopy or umbrella. In this way, he supplies umbrella, bedding, slippers, and everything else personally required by Lord Vishnu. This is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. This is explained in the scriptures, right? He supplies the umbrella, the bedding, the slippers, and everything else personally required by Lord Vishnu. So this personal conception of the Supreme Lord is a very, very important thing, right? As explained in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yat jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaneti sabdyate. Right? So there are different phases, stages of realization of the absolute truth. Right? Vadanti means they speak tat tattva vidas tattvam, about the tattva, about the truth, about the absolute truth. The great realized people, they speak about the absolute truth, and they speak about 3 stages of realization. What is that? Brahmeti. First is Brahmeti, Brahman realization. Right? For example, you see the sun rays are coming from the sun, right? The sun rays are coming from the sun, right? The sun rays is like the Brahman realization. It is impersonal. Then Paramatma realization, Brahmeti Paramatmeti. Then the sun globe, which is localized at one place, that is Paramatma realization. And then Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan eti sabdyate. Right? Bhagwan realization. The understanding that when you actually go to the sun planet, you will meet a sun god, Vivaswan. He is the president of the sun planet. You can go to the sun planet today and you can shake hands with the sun god, Vivaswan. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Ham Avyayam, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that he spoke the signs of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. He's a person. Vivaswan is a person. You can meet him. We all can meet him. If we can get suitable bodies to travel to the sun planet, we can go and meet him on the sun planet today. Right? We can travel there and meet him. So we understand that the light of the sun is coming from the sun god. Similarly, the foundations of Brahman, all the Brahman, the foundation of Brahman, which is the effulgence coming out from the body of the Lord, the Paramatma, which is an expansion from the Supreme Lord, the source of it is the person, the person, right? The person who is the Supreme Lord, who is Bhagwan, full with 6 opulences. Bhagwan comes from the word Bhaga. Bhaga means opulence, and Van means one who possesses. So one who possesses all the 6 opulences in full. In full, he is Bhagwan. So he is a person. What kind of person? What is that? The original nature of that person? Ete cham sakala pumsha krishnastu Bhagavan swayam. Right? What is the nature? What is the nature of that Bhagwan? Right? The nature of that Bhagwan is he is a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, 2-handed form. Dvibhuja. Everything is coming from him. Right? So we have to understand that he's a person. Right? And that is the missing conception of the Mayavadis. Right? The Mayavadis don't believe in that conception. Because why? Maya aparita jnana. Their jnana, their knowledge have been kidnapped by Maya. Their knowledge has been kidnapped by Maya. Maya aparita jnana. Right? Because why their knowledge has been kidnapped? Because they are blasphemous to the Supreme Lord. They have performed great blasphemy to the Supreme Lord. They believe that the Lord has no eyes, no ears, no senses at all. Right? So we have to understand that what the description here, and that's why Brahma is saying, showing the happiness of your sleep to intelligent person, Janashya. The word used is Janashya. So not everybody can understand, right? We say somebody is actually sleeping in the water, right, on a bed of snakes. The first conception, I mean, we will have a very material conception of that, right? First, we will say, hey, how can one sleep in water, right? And that's what Prabhupada is writing in the purport, that if there are so many living entities in the water, they can stay in the water, they can eat, sleep, mate, defend everything in the water. Why can't the Supreme Lord do so? Right? So these insignificant living entities can stay in the water. Then why can't the Supreme Lord stay in the water and sleep in the water, enjoy happily? Right? So the distinction we have to understand, that the Lord is completely transcendental. He is able to do anything and everything without being deterred by limitations of time and space. Right? So this is the point. So we have to understand these concepts as described by authorities like Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is a Mahajan, most exalted personality, right? He's an Acharya also, right? So we have to understand these spiritual topics from such authorities. I think I will stop here. That's all I think I'll have to say for today. If there are any questions or comments, we can take up now. Okay, looks like that there are no comments or questions. So, Prabhu, shall I stop here? Anything you wanted to comment? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam.
Dandat Pranam, Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class. Any devotees, you may please ask questions. Otherwise, we will end the class. I request some of the devotees to please ask questions because Prabhuji is very knowledgeable. He will answer the questions.
Okay, looks like there are no questions. So we will stop here. Vancha kalpatrubhasya kripa sindhuvaya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna. We'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.